Alright YouTube, this is my 666th video that doesn't apply to my Daily Motion audience. And it's fitting, because Reid just invoked the nuclear option in the Senate, which means now Senate legislation requires a simple majority rather than a supermajority, a two-thirds vote, for appointees and so forth. I'm not sure if this would affect impeachment proceedings. My thought is this, to the Democrats that are largely overjoyed that this has happened. Firstly, the reason that this was put in place in the 1700s, by the way, by Thomas Jefferson, I believe it was. The reason why this was implemented is because the founders realized, even though they largely opposed political parties, which nobody seems to know anything about anymore, that they would probably form. The idea was that if you required the Senate to use a supermajority for certain votes, that it could prevent particularly bad laws from being passed, that it could prevent particularly bad appointees from being put into a position of power. The idea was that if one party grabbed too much power, and they did it in a dishonest way, and they were running down the people or whatever, that they could be prevented from doing everything that they wanted. Of course, if the Democrats had the House, now with the nuclear option fully invoked, they wouldn't have anything to stop them. They could do literally whatever they want. To the Democrats who think that this is a good idea also, what would happen now that you've changed a 250-year-old established system that's been in place for that long, about 250 years? What happens now if the Republicans, who already control the House, then take the Senate? I'm not sure if this would affect impeachment proceedings, but it would seem to me that if the Senate rules had been changed, and it does alter the impeachment process, the Republicans could simply wait until midterms, take one extra seat in the Senate, and impeach Obama on the first day. They could then go out, they could then get rid of Biden, impeach him. They could essentially go right down the chain until they get someone sympathetic to them in control. Then they would completely control the government. Or they could wait until the next election, and if they have the Senate and they take the presidency, they can do whatever they want. It no longer requires a supermajority in the Senate. What you have just witnessed today is essentially the death of the two-party system. Of course, people like me, they look at the two parties, they say they're not that different anyway. Most of the partisan bickering is just a floor show to keep people entertained, to keep the money flowing from corporations and so forth. But it's really dishonest in the long run because the two parties agree in spirit on most of the issues. Thus, they have to seek several wedge issues to separate themselves. Wedge issues being things like homosexuality, abortion, things that, let's face it, most of the evangelicals, so-called, don't even care about these issues, but they trump them up to get votes. And the Democrats don't care about them either. They don't care about 90% of the population. If you don't have money or means of production or something else to offer these people, they don't care about you. They can get 50 grand for speaking for 10 minutes at an event. They don't need your donations. They don't even really care about your donations. Most of them come from corporations and unions and lobbies, organized groups. They don't come from individuals, which is why I think we need campaign finance reform myself, but that's a totally different issue. But let's look at this logically. These Democrats that largely are praising this move don't seem to understand that now that you've changed that rule, it changes forever. It's gone, let's face it, it's probably gone for good. You'd need a constitutional amendment now at this point to permanently return it to the way it was. That's obviously not going to happen because whoever controls the Senate isn't going to vote to give up their own power. Government continuously grabs more power. So it's never going away. It's there probably unless there's massive civil unrest and forces them to put in an amendment to change that back. It's going to stay that way. What happens when the Republicans control the Senate? It means they can get whatever appointees they want too. You've just destroyed the spirit of bipartisan negotiation that used to rule the Senate. That was kind of the point of this Senate rule. And by the way, Reid, who presides over the Senate, who okayed this, who put it down for a vote, got it through, and now changed the rules, said himself in 2008, when he was first in there, that he thought that using the nuclear option was a terrible idea, that it would destroy the country, that the entire fact that it was even debated over in the first place and considered for use was a black period in American history that he would rather forget. He said that. I'll even link the interview with, I think it was Tom Daschle at the time, another Democrat. I'll link it in the description. He himself said this. And he said, oh, well, I don't think I would do that during my time in the Senate. I don't think I would use the nuclear option. But he did. So he's just done something which previously he said would probably destroy the country. The reason why it will destroy it is it removes any spirit of bipartisan agreement, and it further solidifies the two parties as two totally warring entities that will never agree. It means more bad government for the American people. So it's fitting that this is my 666th video, because this might as well be some sort of mark of the beast thing. It's probably going to severely harm our country. Our credibility with other countries will probably fall as they observe the slow erosion of our democratic republic, our representative democracy, so to speak. It's a terrible idea. Right now, Obama is continuing to slide in the polls. The ACA is getting more and more unpopular. It's entirely possible that the Republicans will recapture the Senate during the midterms. Nobody thought that was possible before the ACA rollout. They said, if anything, it'll remain about the same. If they make any gains, it'll be tiny amounts of gain. Any seats they gain, they'll probably lose a different seat in turn. What happens if they do take the Senate during the midterms and then win the next presidential election? What happens when Republicans run it all? Do you Democrats still support this nuclear option? Because now you've put it in there. You own it completely. The Senate Democrats are the ones that put it in. They will be able to use it too. It was put there for this regulation that has now been changed on the Senate rules, was put there for a reason. It was put there to protect the entire country from partisan interests. And it's gone now. Thank you. Thank you for putting that in place and destroying our representative democracy. Because you're going to see the fruits of your labor, because next time the Republicans take the Senate, which could be as early as a year from now, you're going to suffer severely. The Republicans can just stonewall every appointee, number one, which makes more partisan bickering. Or they can just let him through anyway and hope to capture the presidency and say, oh, well, now we can do literally whatever we want. We can target any law, we can target any regulation, we can defund any department, we can do away with all of these democratic programs that we don't think are working. Is what you could end up with, in the worst case scenario, is the government turns into a metronome bouncing back and forth because a party gets in, screws itself completely and ruins the economy. People elect the other party. The other party screws things up, and it swings back and forth to the point where you could get a civil war scenario going. Don't think that it's impossible. It has happened before. You could end up with massive unrest, rolling unemployment, a depression. You could have all sorts of problems. A worst case for the two-party system is a third party takes control. You get a Green Party or Libertarian Party with its ranks swelling from expats from the other two parties that are tired of the bickering. So what you have just done, you screwed the two-party system, because it's not clear now that the two-party system will really survive the amount of partisan hype that's likely to appear. And you've essentially given the Republicans a huge gift if they take the Senate during the midterms, because they'll be able to they can block any appointee they want. It won't require a supermajority. It won't require any effort at all. They could even ram appointees through that they personally wanted to other government offices. I believe they have the ability to do that in certain scenarios, but I'm not sure. And again, if this does affect impeachment proceedings, and I'm not sure, this is completely new. There's no real established case law or anything surrounding the use of the nuclear option, because it's never been used before. So only time will tell if it gets tempered or declared unlawful or something. Well, the Democrats have screwed themselves. The Republicans are screwing themselves too. The two-party system today has died. Because either people are going to get completely tired with them, or they're going to become so partisan, one party can take over and do literally anything that it wants. And the Democrats are cheering, thinking that this is somehow a good thing. I'm sure that they won't be cheering anymore if the Republicans they can say all they want, well, the Republican Party's finished, they'll never win again. Look at the poll numbers right now. It's very possible they'll take back the Senate. And even odds are that the next president's a Republican. We can't determine yet. We don't know who the candidates are. We don't know what their platforms are. We don't know the ultimate fate of the ACA. We don't know any of these things. There are far too many variables to predict that far into the future. So both the parties have completely screwed themselves right now. So thank you to the Democratic Party, particularly the Senate Democrats, for ruining the Senate rules and making it easier for tyranny to sneak into the United States. I'm sure that was the goal because, again, Reid himself said this would destroy the country, so apparently now, according to his own words in 2008, he's attempting to destroy the country. Not that I have faith in the Republicans any more than I have faith in the Democrats. They've both screwed us over. We suffered under Bush. We're suffering under Obama. Enough is enough. It's time to move to a third-party option. Anyone telling you that a third-party vote is a wasted vote doesn't understand that anybody can choose to vote for anyone they want. If a third-party candidate sounds better, tell people to vote for him. Say, this candidate's better. X, Y, and Z. Here's why. The other two candidates suck. Here's why. Do it. They can win. Ron Paul had widespread support. Gary Johnson got several percent at least in every state. He actually did fairly well for a third-party candidate. Third parties are rising fast because people are tired of this bickering, partisan bullshit. So the Senate rules have been changed. 666th video, which is apt because of the subject matter. I'll have more videos perhaps later today on similar topics and on other topics as well. I want to cover ISON some more as well. It would be funny if the comet just smashed into Earth. It's like, the gods are fucking angry at you people. You're so screwed up. Just go extinct already. At this point, it might be better for the human race if they did go extinct at this point from a huge comet smashing into the ocean and destroying all life on Earth, because humans have completely screwed themselves. The last best hope for peace and democracy seems to have gone the way of the dodo bird, so to speak. That's about all. Peace out.